Good morning, everybody. Glad you could join us here for this workshop this morning. We're going to go over the new additions, but before we do that, this is the website, and what I need to do is just briefly, because this is being recorded and posted, briefly put up the disclaimer here. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the disclaimer, but if you're not, here it is, the risk disclaimer. It's a standard risk disclaimer. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. So, as most of you know, you got your package sent out to you. That package included the following things. It included 3 new indicators. One of them is the Grail band, one of them is the Grail band arrows, and one of them is the flow. And I'll talk about those. In addition to that, you got 2 new what I call Grail Traders. You got the Grail BTS Trader, and you got the Grail time band trader. All right, so let me talk about the first 2 indicators first, and the difference between the Grail band and the Grail band arrows. Now, if you go to the indicator list and you scroll down, you'll see that you have Grail band and Grail band arrows. Now, I've put the Grail band on, and so when it comes on, you need to set the time and the duration that you want this band to be on your chart. Now, since this is a YM, I went ahead and put 6:30. That's my time. I'm Pacific. So I want to start following the pit open at 6:30 for basically I just want it to draw out for 360 minutes. All right, that's 6 hours. And so here it is. You'll notice that what it'll do right now, it'll shade for the first 30 minutes, and then after that, it'll go ahead and put the band area that's here. All right, this is the band that will determine where the arrows fire at, whether you're using the Grail band arrows or whether you're using the Grail time band trader. All right, this is the band that controls that. So those are your times. Now, keep in mind it has nothing to do with the session template that you're running or anything like that. The instructions that we gave regarding how to sync up your session template when you're running the big band indicator, those are all still the same. Nothing's changed on that. You don't need to do anything on that. What you need to concentrate on is what time do you want this band to start. Okay? If I were to put the other indicator up, and you can put both of them up here, one really won't step on the other, but if I go ahead and put the other indicator up, which is the Grail band arrows, all right, notice I still need to make the same time because as I put it up here, this says 8:30. I want 6:30. Whoops, not 86:30, 6:30, and I'll hit OK. All right, now what that does, notice, it places an arrow every time you break the band, whether it's to the downside or whether it's to the upside. Okay, you get a lot of arrows that are produced that way because every time that it comes, that it's in the band and it breaks down, it's going to produce an arrow. Some of you may like that. It's not filtering with anything. It's just running wide open. But the good thing is if you want to filter this yourself, you can use the mini trader to actually trade these entrances. Okay, I won't cover that today, but some of you are familiar with the mini trader. You can use the mini trader to do this. So the difference being, you'll notice that the Grail band right now will shade the first 30 minutes. Okay, the Grail band arrows shades the entire time on the band. The difference being it's producing arrows right now. Okay, the Grail band arrow produces arrows. Are there any questions on these two indicators so far? I mean, that's it really in a nutshell as far as these two indicators are concerned. So I'm just going to pause for a minute to see if there's any questions regarding these two indicators that you've got that are new. Once you open a chart and you get everything set up on it, remember you don't want to be creating or saving any templates, right? That's the kiss of death for any of these Grail traders. If you have a Grail trader on there and you create a template, that's the kiss of death. So all you need to do is when you exit NinjaTrader, it's going to ask you, do you want to save your workspace? And you just say yes to all. Okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn off I'm going to get rid of the Grail band arrows so that's not interfering. Okay? I'm going to add the Grail time band trader. All right, now this is an actual trader. This is one of your 5 traders. I'm going to add the Grail time band trader. I'm going to put new and I'm going to hit OK. And you're going to notice when I hit OK, things are probably not going to match up. All right, so things are not matching up here. You know, I'm getting arrows here and I'm getting arrows out here, right? Well, they're not matching up. And of course, the reason that they're not matching up is, like I said, you need to also set your times in here. All right, once they're set, they're set. Just like everything else, the Grail time band trader just works like all the other Grails. We have a Grail 1, we have a Grail 2, and we have a Grail 3. And I'm going to go through what each one of those means, okay? But the first thing that you need to do is you need to come in here and synchronize your time on each one of these. I wanted, in this case, 6:30, so I'm going to put the 6 in here. You don't really need to put it in the bottom one, but I like to do it anyway. In other words, the second one just to sync it up. I'm going to go to Grail 2. And again, this couldn't be universally set because everybody that trades these, you're all on different time. Some of you are on Mountain Time, some on Central Time, some on East Coast Time, some over in Europe or Asia or Australia. So there's no way to universally set this. But as I indicated, once you get them set and you save your workspace, you don't have to worry about it again. So if you're trading an equity chart, you're going to make the change here on the equity chart. On your respective chart. Now, okay, I made all the changes for Grail 1, 2, and 3. What I haven't done yet is I haven't applied it. So I'm going to left-click Apply. You always do that. Anytime that you make a change, you're going to left-click Apply. So now what I have, for my Grail 1, I have my time. For my Grail 2, I have my time. For my Grail 3, I have my time. All right, I left-click Apply, and then I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to reload NinjaScript. All right. Now, I don't have my other indicators up here, and I'm going to go ahead and put them up so I can show you the filters that are running here. All right. So generally what I do, and I don't want to duplicate all this now, is I'll start with the chart template. I'll put the normal chart template up here that we all have that's got all the indicators on it. But I'm going to just go ahead and add them manually so we can see them right now. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to add the Grail BTS. I'm going to add the Grail Profit. I'm going to add the Grail chop. Okay, that's what I'm going to add. So I'm adding that, but you can do that off of your you can do that off of your normal template if you want. So I'm going to hit OK. And now we have a little more color and a little more things that make sense. So now let me go through the settings on this. Okay, let me go through the settings on your Grail time band trader. All right, remember we have Grail 1, Grail 2, Grail 3. Okay, Grail 1, right now on the default, once you make your time change, is using the BTS as its filter. The setting of 2 and -2 means that it's only looking at blue or red. So when the BTS is blue and it goes above the band, it's going to fire a long trade. When the BTS is red and it goes below the band, it's going to fire a short. Okay, this is Grail 1. So basically means BTS blue or red. If you don't want to trade the BTS, in other words, if you just want to go short when it goes below the band and long when it goes above the band, all you need to do is what? Is turn off your BTS filter, okay, and click apply. So in Grail 1, if you ever just want to just run both sides of the chart, both sides of the band, all you have to do is turn off your BTS filter, all right, and you'll get black arrows both sides. So let me show that. I'm going to do the reload. And there we have it. Okay, this is this morning. I think we showed it. It broke, and then it broke again. All right, so we had two entries this morning, both of them very good. Over here from yesterday, right? This is what we have. All right. So running it wide open like this sometimes works very, very well. Sometimes you're going to have to work it more and you're going to get in through a chop area, but eventually it takes off. Mary asked, is this band related to the big band? No, Mary, this band is not related to the big band at all. What this really is doing is creating an OP based on the time that you tell it to create an OP. Okay, so it's looking at all of the data, but I'm saying, okay, for the pit open on equities, I want to create an OP at 6:30 my time. And that's what this is. It's creating an OP. The only difference is it's not giving you the midline here, but it's creating an OP. So this is really for trading an OP based on the time that you select, and in this case, it's the pit open. Okay? Now, as I mentioned before, Grail 1, if you don't want to run it wide open, is set to run default long when it's blue, short when it's red, and in this case, if I reload it, that's not going to work because we didn't have a blue breaking above or a red breaking below. Okay? Grail 2, I set my times, and what is it doing? The filter that it has is also the BTS, but notice this is set to 1 and -1. And what that means is it's looking for trades. If the previous color was blue and then we went to yellow, so in other words, yellow is what you're going to look at, and then we go back to see what the previous BTS color was, it would be long. And if it was red and then we went to yellow, it would look for a short. Okay, we don't have either one of those conditions here. All right, we have none. And you can just work with it. So again, it's yellow following blue, yellow following red for long or short entries. It works just like the first one, except that instead of looking for blue and red, it's looking for yellow following blue, yellow following red. We don't have either one of those, and that's why we didn't get a trade. All right, here's number 3. Number 3 is off right now. Okay, now what is number 3 doing? Number 3, again, I set my time, and I'm using the profit as my filter. Okay, what does that mean? I'm going to hit apply. It means that if we break above or below the band, and whatever condition the profit's in, that's what it's going to look at. Okay, so right here we went below the band, the profit was blue, that's not going to work. Okay, but right here we went below the band and the profit was red, so it's going to pick up a short there. It doesn't care what the BTS is doing, okay, because we're not using the BTS as a filter. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to reload. I'm going to make sure I applied it. Did I apply it? I think I did. I think I have to move a little further back to give some examples here. Yeah, so over here, we got our trade selections, okay? The problem is if you move above the band when you don't have the profit, you're not going to get a trade. All right, so just keep that in mind as you work with this. Okay. Any questions so far? What I recommend doing, I recommend at the beginning in the first half hour, like when you're trading crude oil or when you're trading YM or any of the other markets, I recommend that you go ahead and you run both sides. And that way you're going to get your trades. Because again, it's very important at the beginning. You want to try to catch the trades. Of course, the trade-off is if you start to chop. So if you start to see that, you need to back off. You'll generally know that within the first couple of trades. All right. So running at both sides here. Okay. That was our Grail 1 entry. That was our Grail 1 entry, but we also had the Grail 3 entry right here. You see the Grail 3 entry? We also had a Grail 3. Okay. Now that's it really in a nutshell as far as the Grail time band trader. Are there any questions on it? I pretty much said once I got onto this and simplified it, it would make it a lot easier for you to understand, and I'm hoping you're seeing that. So I'm just going to pause here for a minute to see if there's any questions on this, because it really is fairly simple and straightforward once you look at Grail 1, 2, and 3. So the question from Dennis is, to run both sides of the band, you would deselect BTS. Yes, and you only need to do that in Grail 1. Okay? You only need to do that in Grail 1. Right here. Just deselect it. Grail 2 and 3 doesn't matter. You're going to get those trades anyway, because that's, in essence, it's got to go through the band anyway, right? It's got to go above the band or below the band using filters. So you can leave those trade settings alone. You don't even have to mess with them, okay? All you need to do is go to Grail 1 and deselect the BTS as your filter. And therefore, it's not running any filter. It's just using the OP time band that you created. For how, well, let me just see now. Yeah, Ray, is he saying, am I giving any recommendation on what to trade on a chart and the times? For the most part, what I'm recommending is when you first start out the band for the first half hour, and I'll give times, okay? I'll talk about the times and the markets again. And a little later today, I'll put out probably a little Word document that will list those, okay? But for the equities, and I'm talking about my time now, 6:30 a.m. my time, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, okay? For the first half hour, I think it's a very good idea to run, once you create that OP at that time frame, to turn off the filter on one and let it run for the first half hour. Then after that, I would turn the filter back on and run them. Yeah, it's a little cheat sheet, but it's not a real exhaustive cheat sheet, Ray. So Ferguson says, so there's no arrows after it leaves the band. That's correct, Ferguson. There are no more arrows after it leaves the band. If you wanted to trade other trade setups, then you would put one of the other grails on there. In particular, you could put the Grail BTS on there, or you could put the normal Grail on there, right? Or you could trade the big band. You know, I don't have the big band up here right now because I'm just trying to simplify this, but we saw how we went from important levels using the big band to the OP and things like that. I just want to keep this real straightforward. Okay, so your question, Ray, is what? You're still trying to understand the times and what to turn on and off? Is that what you're saying? Okay, I can give you the verbal synopsis right now, and I'll go ahead and put it on a cheat sheet for you, okay? 5:30 my time, 8:30 Eastern. It's gold, natural gas, copper, 6E, 6J, 6S, and the ZN. Okay? You have that. 6 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock Eastern, is crude oil. And 6:30 my time, which is 8:30 Eastern, is the NASDAQ, the Dow, the EMD, and the ES, basically the four equities. Okay? Basically the four equities. You can run two traders on a chart. Dennis has asked that. I could go ahead and put the BTS trader up here as well, Dennis. And maybe I'll do that, okay? You can absolutely run two traders on the chart. So I'm going to stop. I've really exhausted what I wanted to talk about here as far as the Grail time band trader. And I'm going to just see what questions we have. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the Grail BTS trader. All right, so I'm going to go to my indicators. I'm going to add the Grail BTS trader. That's here. I'm going to hit new, and then I'm going to hit OK. 1 minute, please. Okay. All right. So I'm back. So here's the issue now. This is running the BTS. Okay. And this is the standard BTS. So the BTS trader does what? The BTS trader, under BTS 1, is trading the BTS. BTS 1 is trading the BTS just like we had in the Grail band time trader. If it's blue, it's signaling a long. If it's red, it's signaling a short. Okay, this is a much more active trader. So if it's blue, it's signaling a red, a long. That was right here. All right, that was the long. If it turns red, it's signaling the short. Okay, so just to show this, if I were to turn this off and that one is off, so the only one that is on is this. I'm going to apply it, and I'm going to go ahead and reload it. And we'll see the difference in the trade setups. All right, so just on the straight BTS trader, Grail 1, with these settings, when it turns to blue, it fires a long. When it turns to red, it fires a short. Blue, long, and red, short. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, I'll turn it on. Basically what it's doing, it's using the chop, and it's using reversal bars, and again, it's using the BTS, whether it's blue or whether it's red. All right, BTS blue or red with reversal bars with chop. It's very similar to the Grail 2 original entry, except we're not using the profit. We're not using the profit as a filter. So this is a much more active trader. When you're getting a lot of cycling motion, as we have today, all right, those are your entries. The third one uses the chop. It uses reversal bars. It uses the outer limits. Okay, remember this is very similar to your original Grail 3. Okay, but what it's using as a trend, it's not using the DT as a trend. It's not using the profit as a trend. What it's doing, it's using the BTS as a trend. And this is 1 minus 1, so the BTS is basically when everything else is good and yellow follows blue, it's looking for a trade. When yellow follows red, it's looking for a trade. All right, and again, you can turn these on and turn them off and work them. I'm going to go ahead and turn this one on. I'm going to turn the other one off, and the other one's off. Did I click apply? I don't quite remember. All right, so these are the Grail 3 entries. Okay. Now I told you before I don't normally like to trade YM. Okay, using the Grails other than the band, the OPs and the big band. I don't normally like to trade it because it's not as steady. Okay, I mean you're still getting entries in here that were tradable, profitable entries on some. Okay, and then some get run over. So you need to pick the right instrument too, as far as trading the big. So again, the question was, can you trade both? Yeah, I can go ahead and turn this one on again and activate it, and then you'll see you're going to get both. Okay, so we had both. We had the OP band that you created this morning on the shorts, and then you can run another one here. So my recommendation is keep it very simple. All right, keep it extremely simple. I could do the NASDAQ here too if you want. Let's go ahead and just switch the NASDAQ over. I'll just go ahead and put the NASDAQ chart up and we'll see how it did today. And then I'm going to stop to see if there's any more questions on this before we move on over to the flow. I'm waiting for this one to spool up. Okay, so for example, this is the NASDAQ this morning. This is the 5:30 time, and this is the one problem that you can run into if you're running this wide open, right? If you're running the Grail on the Grail time band wide open, you're going to get both sides of this, right? You'll get both sides. If I were to change that, and that's got to be your call, but again, for me, I don't mind running it wide open at the beginning, all right? Because I know eventually we're going to break out of there. So I might have to take 2 or 3 trades in a row on losses. But again, what we're showing is you can run 2 Grails on this at the same time. If I were to go ahead and change this to using the filters up here, so we're only going to trade using the trends. You're going to get less signals. Okay. The danger is you might miss a trade. So that's always the trade-off. Is it's possible you can miss a trade and a good trade. Your question, Dennis, is if Grail 1 gives a signal the others would not? You mean the other Grails within the trader? Each one is separate. Yeah, I answered it already. Okay. So there wasn't too much of a difference on this. It was just a couple of fewer ones. Okay. But because the profit was red, it went short. Profit was blue, it went long. Profit was red, it went short. Okay. But still caught the big trades. All right. I'm going to stop and pause for a minute to see if there's any more questions before we move on. As I indicated, what you want to do is pick one or two and trade it. Because again, what I've been showing this week in the room is creating the OP and trading it, on the various markets as we go through the times, 5:30, 6 a.m., 6:30. Okay. All right, let's turn our attention to the flow indicator now. All right, I'll use you can see once we get through the cycling of the first hour, the BTS trader does very well because we're getting into a more orderly market. Okay, you can see for the most part, most of the entries in here were pretty good entries. All right, so let's go to the flow. So I'm going to right click, we're going to go to indicators. Now I'm going to make sure, first of all, I don't have to. I'm going to go to indicators. I'm going to pick the Grail flow, new, and hit OK. All right, so here's our YM. Going to look over on the flow. Okay, remember what we've got, just so everybody knows here. The first column that we're looking at in here, right here, this is the current day. Okay, this is currently where we're trading right here. If we scroll over here, if we moved higher, this would automatically adjust, but we've traded higher than this level today. And this is our low. This is our low for the day. Okay, this is yesterday's trade. This was the day before yesterday, and this was the third day back. So this is current day, yesterday, day 2 back, day 3 back, and then the total. All right. What I look for in the flow on the total is I look for the blocks. Okay, we've got good blocks up here right now in the total. I don't think we have any more to the downside right now. All right, this is way up here at 56.48. So if I were to scrunch this chart down and come over here and click right here, left click, you see that it puts a line here. If I were to come over here and left click, it puts a line here. This is a significant area where if we do get up here today, again, it's going to bounce hard off of this. Should bounce hard. Okay. That's what I do. I mean, that's basically the flow. You can click on it or unclick on it. All right. Also, as I indicated, I don't believe it's a good idea to run more than one flow on your chart until you've had an opportunity to run that in real time, because the problem is when we get a major report like a crude oil inventory or a nat gas report and you're running that flow, it needs to process a lot of information, and sometimes it can cause you to kind of lock up a little bit. So everybody's computer is different. Some of you may be able to run 3 or 4 or 5 of them and never have a problem. Okay, other of you may just be able to run 1 or 2. So start slow on it and see what happens. Because the worst thing is when you're trading, you get caught up in something. Okay? Any questions on the flow? I just use it as important levels to trade through during the day. Steve says, when does it start counting for the day? It depends on your template again, Steve. Good question. So again, remember, I'm going to go to data series, right? I'm running the default 24/5 template that we've talked about a long time ago. So that's my Pacific midnight to midnight template. It starts at midnight. Now, one thing to keep in mind on all of these, let's say that you were running your charts the day before, okay, and then you cross over your time period. You cross over midnight or you cross over 3 a.m. You need to reload your chart to get everything synced back up again, because this isn't going to know what you're doing. So you need to right click and reload NinjaScript and bring it back in. Okay, that's important on everything. And as I've also indicated, what's really important is you need to shut down your Ninja every day and then reopen it again. Okay. That's it. That's what I wanted to go over. And like I said, now, I find it best in the first half hour, if you don't want to miss a trade going through the OP band that you're creating, is you can run both sides. If you want to get more subjective and selective, you can, but you run the risk of missing a good trade. It's going to be up to you. I know we've covered a lot of material today, but I think for the most part, when you've had an opportunity to work with it and kind of let it sink in a little bit, you'll find that it's really easy to work with. The whole concept is you don't want to overtrade, all right? And the reason that we came out with the OP trader, or you create it, is you're not, for the most part, you're not going to overtrade doing that, okay? You might miss a few trades, but you're not going to overtrade. You're going to have to be more patient. But it's also good because you're going to get trades in that first hour or first hour and a half. It's good for people that don't have a lot of time to trade during the day, so where you can get in and out. Now, I hope I've answered most of everybody's questions. I'm going to pause for a minute and make sure I have. So if there's any final questions, anything that we want to go over, please, now's the chance to do it. All right, so Jack, your question is, you're talking about what about the big band indicator and the grays? I think that's your question. Yep. Well, like anything else, those are additional trades that you've got. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with trading. Okay, let me just show. I always like to have my big band indicator on my charts. Okay, I always like to have it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on here and then kind of show how the two interface. Okay, so that's a good question. So I'm bringing in my big band. I'm going to hit new and I'm going to hit OK. What are the important levels that we want to trade on the big band? We want to trade the number 1 profile level up and down that's attached. Right? We want to do that. We want to trade the number 2 bands above and below. Right? And that's pretty much it. So sometimes you'll get trades, other times we won't. It's coming up now, so I just want to turn my profile off here so that we don't have to see it. Probably shouldn't have picked the NASDAQ because there's a lot of data on it. All right, so here's our big band for today, right? So we looked at it. We were in the room this morning, all right, when we started the pit session this morning here at 6:30. This was the number one profile level. It was both number one and number two profile levels on the upside for the day. Okay, indicated that that's a very important level, and we saw the trades that transpired. Again, I'm talking big band only now. All right, and then what's the next important on big band? It's the OP. So coming through the OP. What would be the next important levels? Well, we've got our number one and number two profile levels down here. They're not really attached to a band, so I'm not putting a lot of significance in them. Okay. However, this is the number two band right here. All right, number two band. So that is an important band if we were to get there. Okay, and we did. So initially we got a bounce, and then we broke through. We got to trade back up and down again. And we did not get down to this band yet. However, we are rallying back to this band. And remember what I said? We go band to band. So what we're talking about here is you've got different trading methodologies. You don't want to get confused on them, all right? You've got 5 modalities to choose from. You can't trade them all. Pick what you like the best, okay? From my standpoint, what I like the best, me personally, is I'll back up on this. News events, I like trading the normal Grail that we have on news events 2 minutes after, like we did today in the nat gas, okay? And like we did yesterday in crude oil, okay? That's the bread and butter, all right? My second favorite then is trading on these OP opening times, 5:30, 6, 6:30, based on those markets. Try to get a couple trades out and be done, okay? Then my third is trading the important levels of the big band, like we just showed. Profile up and down. Number one, up and down if it's there. OP and bands 2, above and below. Okay. You're not going to get them all. Hopefully you won't have to trade them because using the other 2 techniques that we're talking about, you would have met your goals for the day and there's no reason to continue to trade. So then what does that leave us after that? What leaves us after that is the Grail BTS, which again is more of a longer term type trader that you're not trading, pit opens, you're not trading news events with it, you're not trading short time segments with it. You're letting the market kind of rotate out more, okay? And I guess my my last is trading the grays because in my opinion, we've got much better ways to trade to utilize the time and the movement than waiting for things to get in or out of the gray area. Okay, so that's really what I look at. That I said, what was the BTS, Ray? I did. I answered you. Okay. Okay. True. My audio still coming through? Yep. Okay. All right. So to answer your question, Dennis, All right, well, that's going to do it then. If there's no more questions, let's go ahead and wrap up. We did take the full hour here. I'm going to go ahead and this will be available. And again, just keep in mind what I talked about here. The tendency is you can get overwhelmed with what's here. Don't let that happen. Keep it simple. Pick one or two and stick with it. All right. And again, approach it from the standpoint you want to be in and out and done with this in a couple of hours. You don't want to be dragging this on through the day. Okay, because that's not what trading is about. All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end the session here, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. All right, take care, and we'll be back in touch with everybody. All right, bye-bye. Bye now.